Yeah.
4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, District 127. Myself, Toastmaster John from District PR Desk. A warm welcome to every one of you present here today. I appreciate all of you for being with us, even being a weekend, a long holiday, being a working day. Still, we have 40 plus numbers here. We expect another 50 more in another 5-10 minutes. One thing I can assure you that the time we spent here will be a great learning for our Toastmasters journey. We have an exciting agenda today, the Brand MasterClass training session by the experts from our district, sharing insights about the importance of branding, TMI brand guidelines, the principles of design, and finally, bringing together the TMI guidelines and designs with Canva. We hear this question from many around us. Why so much talk about branding these days? Why branding is so important? The answer to this question in one word is the brand is our identity. While every club has its own personality, the logo of Toastmasters, the branding of Toastmasters, connect Toastmasters across the globe. That gives us the sense of familiarity and comfort. I know most of us are working with different organizations, and our organization is known for its name, its logo, its color, and we never ever compromise on it. Similarly, Toastmasters is an organization, Toastmasters is a family, and its members across the world connect through its branding. There comes the importance of the session today. We all have lots of confusion, ambiguity, doubts about the brand colors, logo usage, what is allowed, what is not allowed, how you can improve our knowledge on this, how we can improve our poster making skills, how we can improve our designs, following the TMI guidelines. Yes, this session is planned for helping you out on these areas. The success of this event is purely on your active participation and engagement. Once again, I welcome all of you and hope you all have a remarkable evening today. Before I leave the stage, let me introduce the MC for this evening. He's a member of SSY Toastmasters Club, currently part of District 127 PR social media team and Area 9 Public Relations Manager. Working as an HR manager with a contracting company in Dubai. Passion that he pursues beyond his 9 to 7 work is photography and videography. Of course, designing most of the posters from PR department, what you are seeing is designed by him. And a special skill, writing poetry. With all your energy, let's welcome the MC for this evening, Toastmaster Prasanna Kumar, for taking this session forward. Over to Toastmaster Prasanna Kumar.
Thank you so much from the district PR desk, Vijay John. So welcome everyone for TRIIAD, the Brand Masterclass. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, from whichever part of the world you all are joining us. So District 127 is bringing to you the Brand Masterclass. So District 127 encompasses Dubai, Northern Emirates, and Lebanon. District director, district PR desk members, fellow Toastmasters from within the district and from outside the district. So the number 3 is very significant number. Those who are associated with designing and photography, it's a number which you all would be very familiar with. It shows up regularly in the manuals. But it's associated with something else also. Number 3 is associated with the process of learning. So there are 3 stages of the process of learning. The first one is what is called as the cognitive learning. That's when you learn on your own. You start to practice a skill, you do it on your own, you don't refer to anyone, you start making a lot of mistakes, learning in the process, and continuing to do so while you are picking up a new skill. Now, the second stage is when you are referring to someone, you are doing a peer review, you are asking the experts and following some beautiful work of someone which you are inspired about. It's called as the associative learning. So that's the second stage of your learning process. And finally, you reach a stage which is called as the autonomous stage, where you have practiced your skills so much, you have practiced the skill which you want to learn so much that you are making less and less mistakes. You are able to do things which are pioneering, which are different from others, and that's a stage which is the autonomous stage. Now, today we are going to practice on the associative stage. We have 3 master trainers, and they will take us through different aspects of branding, design, and combining it all together. But before we go on and move to the session, let me just set up a few house rules. So I would request all of you to please keep your videos on so that we can see you, we can interact better when your videos are on. Keep your microphone off, please. And during the session, when the trainers are training, I prefer that you reserve your questions or you put it up in the chat box. I'll take note of all the questions which comes through. And in the question and answer session, we will answer all the questions one by one, addressing it to the concerned trainers as such. Now, let's kick off this session. So to begin with, we have our first trainer. Now, our first trainer, her club president introduces her as a banker by profession and a rambler by passion. She wears multiple hats. She's a mother of 2 23 and 20-year-old boys, an investment banker and entrepreneur, head of PR for her division, VP PR for her club, a mentor to many, and pillar lead of WIN, Women's International Network at Barclays. She's a huge advocate of women's empowerment. Please give a round of applause for our first trainer, Patricia Gaekwad. Brand like a boss. Take it away, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Prasanna. That was very, very interesting. And thank you for the warm welcome. Hello, everyone. It's incredible to have participants joining us from various corners of the world. Now, greetings to each and every one of you. I will share my presentation. So building on our moderator, Toastmaster Prasanna's power of 3 rule, my objective for today's session is threefold. What is branding? I present a case study of some bad branding and an overview of the branding identity prism. Why you should follow brand guidelines. I will take you through some of the items which is mentioned in our brand manual and the power of positive branding, and how to be brand compliant, where you follow brand guidelines. Now, by show of hands, just to begin, can all of you tell, like, I don't know how many of you can know the difference between branding, and public relations? If you could use the emoticons, so just I figure out how many of you know the difference between these three: brand, branding, and public relations. Nice. Okay, so let's commence with the what. What is a brand? Now, brand is the meaning people associate with a company's products or services. It's how people perceive your business, and it's one of your business's most valuable assets. Think of a brand as your experience with a company. How does that brand make you feel? Now, here's some of the brands that we just recognize by seeing their logos. Now, brands that have been built over decades of maintaining consistency and creating an experience and expectation of the benefits a buyer will receive once they purchase the brand's products. And this is our most beloved brand, Toastmasters, with a unified and professional image. Now, branding. Branding is the process of strategically shaping your brand image and how others perceive it. Anytime you launch a website, share a social media post, communicate with clients, you are branding. The branding is when you marry your brand strategy with your brand identity. It allows you to promote your business with clarity and consistency. Now, branding helps you differentiate. Helps you differentiate from your competitors. What's public relation? Public relation encompasses the whole strategy and tactics used to get your brand message in front of the right audience, to promote your company, to build awareness, to create credible reputation, create loyalty, and fundamentally it helps to drive your sales. Now, while your branding requires consistency, your PR requirements will change and evolve over time. Now, let me take you to a case study where bad branding leads to recall and making your ads feel a poor ROI, which is your return on investment. Now, in 2018, H&M, which is one of these really well-known, renowned brands, even in UAE, they used a picture of an African child. It was an African-American child, actually, who was wearing a sweatshirt. The fact that it was a sweatshirt wasn't the problem. The outrage came as a result of the design displayed on the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt had the words, "coolest monkey in the jungle." The image ignited an uproar on social media, with critics saying, this is tone deaf and it's filled with racist undertones. In contrast, they also had a white child modeling this hoodie from the same line featuring survival expert. Now, Twitter went crazy with criticism from celebrities, journalists, and social justice advocates, stating the brand was really being insensitive to another culture. H&M had to publicly apologize, and they removed the image across all their social media handles. Insensitive branding can have serious repercussions on a brand's reputation. Now, again, if you can use the emoticons, and can you let me know how many of you know or heard of the Capfera's brand identity prism? Okay, it looks like not too many. So for the benefit of all on the call, John Noel Capfera, he developed a brand identity prism to create a strong and cohesive brand identity that resonates with consumers and helps drive brand loyalty and preference. Now, brand identity is based on the idea that a brand is more than just a logo or a product. Internal is how the brand sees itself, and external is how the others see the brand. Now, the 6-facet model is followed by every leading brand out there. Now, I have used this model and have created it for Toastmasters. Physique. This is basically consistency in branding, which is of paramount importance for Toastmasters International. It builds trust, it builds recognition. When you see the logo, when you see the 3 primary colors, the club banner, you immediately connect it to Toastmasters International brand. Personality. It reflects how the brand interacts with an audience at every touch point, such as through internal communication, external media, social posts, and more. Relationship, being respectful, being friendly, yet professional. Our voice is of confidence, is of compassion. Our tone is positive. It's upbeat, it's enthusiastic. Voice and tone, they're perhaps the most important aspects that helps us become better in connecting with our audience. It reinforces the brand identity. And the brand manual has this voice and tone checklist on the left, which is warm, clear, friendly, professional, succinct, respectful, universally understandable, internationally friendly. Culture. Now, in Toastmasters, all members are guided by a set of essential core values. I'm sure all of you, or most of you here, would know that: integrity, respect, service, excellence. Now, each one is equally important for members and all leaders. Social program helps us build community and connection. Reflection. Now, this resonates with Toastmasters International Brand Promise, that is, empowering individuals through personal and professional development. Self-image, which connects with the tagline, where leaders are made. It's about the pride associated with being a Toastmaster. As they say, once a Toastmaster, always a Toastmaster. Now, the prism illustrates that the brand is not only about a logo or what the organization says about itself. It encompasses the experiences, the emotions, the perceptions of the people it touches. And Toastmasters, with its multifaceted approach to communication and leadership development, exemplifies a holistic brand identity. Now let's move on to the next item on the agenda. It's all about the why. Why should you be brand compliant? Now, how many of you are familiar with the brand one manual? Can we use the emoticons again so I can basically see how much I need to delve into which part of the manual? Okay. All right. The brand manual. Now, how can we as members, clubs, areas, divisions, districts, regions represent the Toastmasters global brand? The current brand manual launched in 2021, it provides all guidelines required to create promotional materials, and it's your go-to for information on colors, on fonts, on logos, images you use, and more. Now, the strength of the brand is how we use the manual. Now, as the brand custodian, you should take time to familiarize yourself completely with the brand manuals. Master the file in totality. So you're able to have that final say in brand representation. Do you remember the brand prism I just mentioned a while back? The core values reflects in the document, the tagline, where leaders are made. It's on the cover page of the brand manual. The brand manual, it's promise, it's in the manual. Now, the manual breaks down the disparity and it makes it possible for all clubs and all districts to produce the same kind of polished content. The Toastmasters brand is interdependent. It needs you, and you need it. Now, think about it. If the brand as a whole is strong, it will make our jobs easier. When we introduce people to the organization, when we maintain consistency, it will help us cultivate the brand worldwide. Having a cohesive brand always allows people from around the world to recognize the Toastmasters name. Now, I would assume a few of you would know how to use log into the brand manual, but I will just demonstrate it quickly. So you basically log into toastmasters.org. You will come onto this header. You go onto the resources tab, which will take you onto this section. Then you just click the overview tab out there. It will take you onto these little boxes. You scroll to the bottom, you'll find the brand portal box, which you'll see on the right of my screen. And then it takes you onto this brand portal page, and you'll see this yellow arrow, which shows you where you need to go to get the brand manual. Now, in the next couple of slides, I'll completely focus on the visual elements of the brand manual, starting with the logo. Now, I've created these two dummy templates here just to basically make you aware, one, of the types of logo, two is of the spacing around the logo, and three is about the actual way you place the logo and with the colors. So Toastmasters International, they have three logos. One is the full color, one is the grayscale, and the other one is the white. Now I've placed the full color on a blue background. This is basically the primary colors, which is in the manual. Now, if I use the full color on the maroon, do you notice this border around the globe, which is in maroon? It basically becomes a part of the background and it camouflages. And this is what Toastmasters brand guidelines say. You need to have contrasting colors. You need to adhere to the brand guidelines. And you use only the colors which is mentioned in the palette. Now, there's another thing about the maroon color. If you put a white logo onto it and you look at the background, it kind of takes in the color of the background. So in maroon, I think I would recommend you basically try and use this gray scale color, which kind of looks rich and it looks quite inviting. And also you can see the space around the logo. I mean, if you look at the manual, there's like an X out here. It basically tells you the minimum space that you need to put around the logo so that the logo itself stands out. Your content does not get, your logo does not get covered by your content. So always ensure you have the spacing. And also the brand guideline says that you need to have 72 pixels for the logo. So when you use it for the web, you will see the pixels where you can just put in the number and it takes you to the right kind of size because that's your minimum size. Anything below that, your logo gets quite distorted. Next is I'll take you on to the color palette. Now, this is the next section of your brand guideline. Now, you're provided with three main colors. These are your primary colors: the true maroon, the loyal blue, the cool gray. Now, the happy yellow, that's your accent color, which can either complement or contrast your primary color. Now, the primary colors associated with the Toastmasters brand supports core elements of leadership, of dedication, and of empowerment. Now, in PowerPoint, you can either use the RGB or the hexadecimal, and in Canva, you use the hex, which is your hexadecimal. Now, as you'll see from this dummy flyer that I've created, I've just incorporated all of the colors from the palette onto the flyer just to basically show you these are your primary colors. That's your accent color. And then you have your base color, which is white and black. Now, the next section, gradient. Now, again, this is a dummy flyer, which is created with the primary color, which is your true maroon. And with that, how do you use a gradient? I've created another one. Now, this one has a linear gradient, 90 from top to bottom. There are 4 gradients for each color palette that you have. So you have 4 for the true maroon, you have 4 for the loyal blue, you have 4 for the cool gray. So you basically have a lot of color combinations, a lot of options. And if you see the difference here, there is like a stark difference between just using the maroon and when you just use a gradient. It looks really rich and vibrant and everything stands out. Your image stands out, your text color stands out, your accent color stands out. Transparencies. Now, another way, the manual provides interesting options on color gradients and transparencies to create your marketing materials. For transparencies, the guideline is to use 70%. Now, this is an image which has no transparency. Now, on the right, I have put in the 70%. And that, when you want to highlight your content more than your image, I think that's a great way of adding your transparency. Because even though you have a lot of image and a bit of text, it's not really looking overcrowded here because your image is transitioning a bit into the background with the transparency. And this is another one which you can actually use. It's beautifully done by our district PR, where you can use the transparency for these ribbons and have your text in the front pop out. It's simple, it's elegant, and it looks very neat. Our district PR team have also created this amazing quick reference color card, which shows you your solid colors, your fonts. You can scan and your fonts you can download your fonts. It shows you all the gradient for your primary colors where you use your 70% transparency. So when you look at it immediately, you know, okay, you know what, I want to use a blissful blue maybe, or the loyal blue, because that's how things work on your transparencies and gradients. So these are like great tips to use your color combinations. Now, staying on the topic of combo, let's do a quick maths. If I just want to see if you've been paying attention, have you taken breaks, or are you just taking quick snooze? Please use the chat box and let me know how many color combinations or variables you can make using these primary colors, the accent colors, which I just displayed, the gradient, and the transparencies. So mentally just go back to what I presented and just come up with numbers that I would like to see. I just want to know how many combinations you come up with, and why should you feel restricted that you have only 4 colors? I have to stop this to see the chat, sorry. Okay, I unfortunately have a problem seeing the chat. Well, I'll get back to on the number thing. I seem to be having an issue with my thing. So going to the next topic of fonts. Now, brands associate with fonts as those fonts offer them the same visual appeal that the brands aim to offer. Now, Toastmasters' primary font of choice is Gotham because the wide stance geometric trails of the font, it exudes confidence without looking stiff or digitalized. But Gotham is not the only font you can use. There is an alternate you can use, which is Montserrat, which is a substitute. Now, this is called the Gotham fonts, family of fonts, right from ultra to thin. Now, usually the recommendation is to use the bold and the light style for main and subheadings rather than the thin, extra light, extra bold black, as these are less legible to read and more difficult to use. And it's always preferred to use a combination of upper and lower cases, which helps read your messages better. Then, of course, you have the body copy, the small font, which is Myriad, or Source Sans Pro. Now, you can either use these, or you can use either one of them, basically. Now, these are called a Myriad Pro family of fonts, right from ultra to the thin, similar to the Gotham. Now, as you will see from this slide, there are only 2 fonts for headlines, and there are only 2 fonts for subheadlines. Now, on the bottom left of every page in the brand manual, you will see this download button, where you will find a link which will take you directly to that particular page. Now, the branding team at TMI has really simplified the whole process for its members. So you don't really need to go and hunt in different places. Just go onto the online version of the manual, click on the download button, go to the content, and you have it all out there. Now, which brings me to the next section of my presentation, which is the how. Now, how can we become brand compliant? What does brand compliant look like, feel like? What should you do? And what should you not do? Now, when choosing images, you have to use interesting images which will draw a person's attention. Use images that are reflective of your club or your members. Like I've created one here. It shows that people are empowered, they are networking, they're collaborating. Now, if you want publicity for your Toastmasters Club or for anything else in the digital age, you need to get involved in content creation. Communicate in an authentic and approachable manner. As you will see in this demo slide that I have created, people are interacting, they are networking. I basically put in what the demo meeting is all about. So it is content which is engaging. Now, everything that a club, an area, a district or region produces, it has to follow basic brand guidelines. Now, all the interactions, whether in emails, phone calls, or direct conversations, need to convey a clear and warm tone. And this is what's in the manual, which I had also shown previously in my brand identity prism. You have to ensure your communication has a warm and friendly tone. Always make sure your images are chosen from a reputable source. You have checked the rights to use an image. And if you have photos or videos or recordings of people and you plan to publish them in print or online, you need to obtain permission from all the people in that particular picture. And there is a photo release form on the TMI website, which you can use. And I would recommend the Sergeant at Arms at clubs to basically distribute this to new members. So, because the new members should be aware that, or they should actually give their permission that the club can use it across all the social media platforms. We have to respect people's privacy. Now, trademarks are particularly important for nonprofit organizations. Any material that merely suggests a partnership could potentially be profitable or detrimental to the nonprofit status. Now, for this reason, clubs cannot partner officially with other fundraisers. Like even a simple walkathon or a hospital fundraiser can be problematic, and it's all mentioned in the manual. Now, what are the don'ts? What you should be avoiding? and to avoid any kind of brand violations. Now, the brand guideline around images and photography, they clearly show you stay away from images that does not project the Toastmaster environment. Now, what is the Toastmaster environment? It's all about human interaction where people look engaged, they look empowered, they look like they are all supported in meetings, presentations, speeches, networking events, conferences, trainings, speeches. Now, the guideline clearly states do not use images which do not connect with the Toastmasters environments, just landscapes, animal, children, food. Now, I have created this flyer which just has food. I really don't think this flyer is projecting anything, but I have seen a lot of flyers which have a lot of elements and there's lots going around it. So it's very difficult to understand what are you really trying to project through your content. Now, you could use the same flyer in a way where people are interacting over food. The same flyer just helps the audience connect more on a one-to-one person basis. Now, this is a flyer with just a landscape. It really doesn't do anything. But if you have a group of hikers with the landscape in the background, that really brings in a lot of element. It shows that you are really connected. And in bold letters, you will clearly see the guideline. Do not use cartoons, do not use illustrations, do not use clip arts. It's in any materials that you create for the club, that you create for the areas, divisions, districts, regions. Email, social media icons, these are all universally acceptable, but a cartoon is completely against the brand because we are all about people. Now, as I mentioned in the previous slide, trademarks and copyright should be taken very seriously. Toastmasters respects the intellectual property of people and the rights, including copyright and trademark rights. So we should also, and they also expect us to respect other people's rights, which I don't think is much to ask. Now we understand the stress of creativity. You know, my flower has to be amazing. How do I do that? Where do I start? And then we start bringing in all the possible elements and everything that we can think of. We'll add music, animations. I have seen some really crazy flyers. Now, just see the designs of a brand like Apple. They have philosophy, value, simplicity, just focusing on the essentials while letting go of the unnecessary frills. So let's make it simple, really simple. Now, this is a suggestion for me. Once the TMOD comes up with a team, I think they should be working with the VPPR as one team to ensure flyers and all promotional materials around meeting theme is brand compliant. You know, keeping a two-way interaction also helps the other person to learn. If your VPPR is someone new, and if the TMOD is someone experienced who just does things on his or her own, it doesn't really help your VPPR to learn. So I think keeping that two-way interaction will help you both learn, and will also help your club develop, and it will help the club remain strong. Now, as a creative person, please use your sensibility to understand what you're trying to communicate. Now, this is another dummy flyer I've created, which shows you the importance that you give an importance to an image because you want to show that the theme is all about collaboration. Maybe it's all about empowerment. It's all about engagement. That speaks volume, as they say, right? Pictures do speak volumes. Do you really need a lot of content around it? Do you need animations? Do you need videos? No. Simple, like just keep things very simple. Now, as a creative person, use your sensibility to understand what you're trying to communicate with your flyer. Do you want to give importance to your image, or do you want to give importance to your content? I think there should be an harmony between the image and the text. Too much can be overpowering, and too little, you're not making an impact. So balance is key. When preparing a flyer, ask yourself, does this flyer create awareness of the brand? Does this flyer reflect the Toastmasters mission? Does this flyer reflect an emotion? Does this flyer align to the Toastmasters brand guideline? Now, if your club is professional, keep the tone of your flyers the same. Don't go crazy over it because that just really negates what your club is all about. Now, if your club is fun and it's like vibrant and it does some fun stuff, again, you can keep your flyers really simple. You know, coming up with great captions, coming up with great quotes, coming up with like a few words to create the same impact, that's where creativity is. Creativity is not about going all out or crazy and adding all possible elements to get your flyers done. Now, these are the few best practices that I would recommend. You follow the Toastmasters International Branding Guidelines and make your lives easier. You don't need to recreate the wheel. Another suggestion is, if I'm sure a lot of you do it, but the ones who don't, create a TMI folder, bookmark everything that you find relevant, not just for Toastmasters International, from the district, from anywhere. So you have everything organized, you find everything relevant in one resource library. Use your Toastmaster portal to download professional images. They have some really nice ones if you look at the portal. And if you feel that's not enough, this is another recommendation that I can make, is create your own club repository of images. As mentioned previously, you have to take consent from all members who are in the pictures. Take candid shots of people, of applauses, of smiles, pictures of social events, pictures of get-togethers, milestones, contests, achievements of members. Use these for your flyers. We know the Toastmasters program is about our members, right? Let's make it member-centric. Let's make it projected in a way that we are just showing the best of everything. Imagine if you keep using your members' pictures, that will make everyone feel included. It'll make everyone feel special. It will make everyone feel a part of the family. Now, refer to the brand manual design and start creating brand flyers, posters, animations, and videos. And when in doubt, please reach out to District PR. A couple of best PR strategies that I can recommend is take some time to assess your past year's results and set new goals for the coming months. Create a roadmap for the full year and plan in detail for at least 6 months. Establish a publicity calendar to keep track of what's happening in the club and or your district. Get the word out with good PR. Building your social media presence, raise awareness about your club and what your members are up to. Focus your time and energy into creating interesting posts on FB, LinkedIn to drive your traffic and invite visitors to register as guests for upcoming events. Encourage club officers and all members to like and share your post. And do recommend that they also post it on their social media platforms to widen the reach. Share public speaking and educational videos, club pictures, meeting info. I see such interesting material shared everywhere, which is of exponential value to all our Toastmasters members. It's always word of mouth experiences that will add value to your club's membership growth. There is so much interesting content shared all over the group. It would be good for the PR team to upload engaging content on the social media platform. Which brings me to the end of the session on resources. There are 2 great resources on Toastmasters International portal and the District 127 portal. You can just log into toastmasters.org, go into the resources. It will take you onto this page here. You can go onto the overview tab and you will have a wealth of information similar to what we have on the District 127. So these are great portals to use and look at. And this is also some amazing stuff created by our District 127 PR. You can always go and use this instead of creating all these flyers again when a member finishes his or her pathways level. Now, remember, branding is one of the easiest concepts to understand and one of the hardest to execute. Familiarize yourself with the brand manual, start designing brand compliant flyers, posters, animations, videos. Let's work together as one district to create a strong brand identity of Toastmasters International. And thank you for being such an attentive audience. Over to you, Toastmaster Prasanna.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for that wonderful session on understanding the brand manual, the do's, don'ts, what are the endless possibilities you can do while being brand compliant. Thank you so much. So before we go on to the next session, I would request everyone to please switch on your cameras and let's take a quick snapshot and have a group photo for everyone. Please switch on your cameras. Okay, page 1. And page 2. Page 2. And we have one more page to go. Thank you so much. So with that, we are going to move on to our next segment with our master trainer. Uh, he's a member of Emirates Toastmasters and he's a dual member. He's with SSY Toastmasters as well. He is an aspiring public speaker and a Toastmaster since 2017. By profession, he's a general manager marketing in the technology industry. He dabbles in design, wrangles two pet cats, and will gladly cross oceans for street food and photography, one of the passion which we share. He his session he's going to decipher the hidden secrets within something which troubles us all the time, the hidden secrets within design. With a round of drum rolls, please welcome to the virtual arena DTM Rajesh Menon with Decoding Design. Over to you, DTM Rajesh Menon.
Rajesh, you're muted.
And I'm still on mute. Great start to a great session. Again, so let me start back from all over again. Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, Toastmaster Prasanna. Fantastic intro as always. Glad to know you. Glad to have you as a friend. And a very, very good evening, good day, and a warm welcome to everyone gathered over here. And I suppose I see that we have people from across the district, across the globe, it seems. So much the better. So today we're going to talk about decoding design. So while Patricia spoke about compliance, the brand manual, the guidelines, I'll dwell a little bit on how to design or what happens in terms of understanding the principles of design, etc. Let's see if this thing goes forward. And yep, so let's set a roadmap for today's session very quickly. So I split this into 4 sections. One is I'll make a case for design. I mean, a fancy phrase. Basically, I'm just going to say or try to say what design is not. And then we kind of make a definition or construct a definition, a working definition for us in our context for what design is. Then I'll introduce you to the triad. Not the triad that's speaking to you here, but another triad, your toolkit, your Swiss knife in your pocket for understanding and applying design. And in the triad, is a vast subject. So in the triad, we'll dwell a little bit on composition because that's probably a good way to understand and apply this really vast subject in this very short time frame that we have now, approximately 20 minutes or so. And finally, what I'll do is I'll take you through the triad on the triad. Yep, I know that's really grown worthy, but then if you notice, there's 3 triads over there. So there's already a triad in itself. I'm really going to have a lot of fun with triad. Bear with me, enjoy with me. And triad on the triad is really simple. We just kind of see if stuff works with stuff that I've created. So some sort of, packing it all in and seeing if the whole thing applies, right? So a couple of pointers over here. This is a whistle stop tour, as you would think. This is not intended to be a deep dive class or whatever it is. We're barely going to scratch the surface of the subject of design, principles of design, etc. But I would believe that once you're done with this, you have a very clear window in terms of how to apply design, how to understand the principles, elements, etc. And that should kind of stand you in good stead to actually start using this and create really winning flyers. So with that, let's move forward. Yeah, my PowerPoint works. The case for design, like I said. So let's go on a little bit of a story. So a couple of weeks ago, when I was researching content for this class, I came across this really nice TED Talk by someone called Terry Moore. And the TED Talk that Terry Moore delivered was called A Mysterious Design That Appears Across Millennia. A mysterious design that appears across millennia. Lovely, lovely TED Talk. Actually, you should see it. I'm going to see this again. So in this TED Talk, Terry Moore talks about this mysterious design. And this design is basically something that was based on an arcane, but a very sophisticated mathematical concept called Penrose tiles. Okay, this design. So this is actually Penrose tiles. So what's happening over here is there's exactly two shapes, but these two shapes can be replicated or can go on until infinity without repeating, and so on. So I'll spare you the details. You should watch the TED talk. Let me come to my point over here, or we'll run out of time, and you won't know anything about design any better than I do. So the point that Terry was trying to make during this talk was that this design apparently manifests itself in a lot of the architecture, not just across cultures, not just across geographies, not just across continents, but across centuries, the millennia in his title. So since back in history, people have been applying designs on their most important buildings. This is Terry's thesis. And then he was wondering, why did they do that? And I'm going to quote him over here. So according to Terry Moore in this TED talk, people, when we see those amazing designs, we know that people apply them not because they are decorations. They are not decorations. They do that and apply it because they're making a statement. They are a message. Again, once again, watch the show or watch the stock. If you haven't watched the stock, it is a really nice, package of marrying or bringing together multiple disciplines: math, science, physics, design, culture, so on and so forth. But what really struck me about this talk and that line, that takeaway that Terry had in this talk, is that they are not design is not really decorations, right? So they are a message. And that gave me a good starting point for today's talk or today's class. Design is not decoration. Great. So let's start with that. Okay, so we now know that design is not really meant for decoration. If the decoration happens, great. That's an added benefit or a consequence, a happy consequence, if you will. But then the next question is, so what is design? So I did what every one of us would do. I went to Google, and Google was very, very generous, obliged me very exuberantly. I had, I don't know, scores and scores of definitions of design. So I went through them, filtered, and I chose this one. So design is a plan for arranging elements in such a way as best to accomplish a particular purpose. I like this because it kind of, there's a triad over here if you guys are watching. So there's a plan, there is arranging elements, and a particular purpose. There you go. You might as well get used to this. There's going to be a lot of triads in this class, I think. And this was done by Charles Ames. Charles Ames was a very famous American designer, architect, filmmaker, made some grand buildings, made a really cool, easy chair. Look him up. Really nice stuff. So we got a design, and then we know that's supposed to be a plan to arrange elements for a particular purpose. How are we going to accomplish this task or a goal? And here's where a triad comes to rescue on the back of some very snappy PowerPoint pyrotechnics. I hope the PowerPoint works. I hope you guys are seeing it the way I'm seeing it. But here we are. And that's where we came up with triad. So which is this triad? Not the people who are talking to you today, of course, because everything in this meeting and in this masterclass, I think is going to be in groups of 3. So this triad is what I want to present you, or what I want to discuss with you as our 3 pillars, if you will, of the design process. Okay. And these are fundamentals. I mean, these are fundamentals. And okay, I didn't mention this before, but what we talk about today and what I'm going to talk about to you today is, you want to construe it, or you want to, take this on as very particularly with respect to the Toastmasters context, with respect to the Toastmasters meeting flyer context. Let's just keep it focused on that. The fundamentals are kind of more or less universal, but I've been picking pieces that are more applicable to our specific context. So we'll just kind of keep at that, keep sort of more streamlined class. So here, back to the class again. So we got the 3 pillars of the design process. So you got elements, you got principles on the right, and then we got composition. So let me take you through what each of these means. So elements are, think about it as the ingredients of whatever you want to do. So if you want to use a cooking metaphor, so elements are the ingredients, principles are perhaps the recipe book, composition is how you actually serve the dish in front of you. found this online, but this kind of makes for a very, very cool example. Okay, so elements are, again, pretty obvious. I'm not going to go into each of these. It'll become a bit of a boring lecture. So line, shapes, colors, texture, typography. Typography is nothing but a fancy word for fonts. You already saw the fonts in Patricia's class, and images, videos, so on and so forth. So these are the various things that you would use to make your flyer, your Toastmasters flyer. Principles are the recipes, or let's say the rules, maybe, or the best practices is a good way to kind of put it. This list has about a dozen principles, and then depending on who you ask and where you look, there's probably more principles that you could do. It's a vast subject. It's applicable to any kind of design. So you'll have a lot of stuff coming your way there. But the challenge then for me is, in this approximately 20 or 25-minute odd class today, how much can we do it? So then I thought about composition. So composition is what we are actually going to do, right? So you have the elements, you have the principles. Ultimately, we're sitting here to know how we're going to make those flyers. So composition is where we'll kind of look at. So I will dwell on composition, okay? Specifically, 6 techniques of composition. These again are kind of universal, used across the board by most designers, and it kind of boils it down. Let me just read them out, so that kind of gives you something to grasp onto as we move into each of these 6 composition techniques in detail. The first one is the grid. I'll explain each of these, of course. The second one is the rule of thirds. Third one's the focal point. Then you've got hierarchy, you've got alignment, and space. Now, I chose these 6 from the laundry list of principles over here because I usually use these 6 when I design my flyers, and they've helped me well. So instead of kind of going all over the place, applying everything to every design, you want to be a bit focused, kind of get the best, most efficient method to get things done. So these 6 work for me, and I'm pretty certain that if you followed this and if you try to use these 6 principles, you would come up with effective flyers, or flyers that win for you, which means flyers that induce your viewers to come attend your Toastmasters meeting. Okay, so that's where we are. So let's now then dive straight into composition, or how you serve your dish, for those who are hungry right now. I should stop using food metaphors. So, okay, composition. First, like we said already, the grid. Now, the grid, as you see on this image over here, the blank white portion is your canvas, and that's your flyer that you're making. So throughout, we'll use that visual cue or whatever it is. I couldn't find anything better than that. So that the blank is your canvas, and those lines, the horizontal and vertical lines that you see there, is the grid. I mean, grid is pretty obvious. So if you want to kind of really go deeper into it, what is a grid? It's a set of vertical and horizontal lines, equally spaced. The number of lines doesn't matter. You can have as many as you want. You can have as few as you want. There's usually a nice sweet spot with a number of lines, but then basically you're dividing your canvas on the vertical and the horizontal planes. Okay, so what this gives you then is some kind of place or anchors, if you will, to place the elements of your design. So these little gray blotches are the various elements that you would put in your design or in your flyer to create your ultimate flyer. So that's all there is to a grid. But the thing is, a grid, because it is so simple, it's also one of the most effective things to finally understand, to view, and to produce or come up with a good result in terms of a flyer. Why is that so? Because the grid does a couple of things. One is it helps you to visualize where your elements are on the canvas. It helps you to visualize where your elements are on the canvas with respect to the canvas itself. So how far are they from the edges? Where are they in the body of the canvas? So on and so forth, which is very important. So then that's when you can kind of juggle or jigsaw your pieces over there. It also helps you to, more importantly, in my opinion, or to my eye, it helps you to understand how each of these elements work with each other. So can I place this here? Can I place this there? And so on and so forth. So whenever you start a design, make sure that you are building your grid on your canvas. Most apps allow you to do it. Canva, I believe, does it automatically for you, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not very conversant with Canva, but otherwise PowerPoint or any of the other designing apps will give you an option to create or even view a grid. Use it liberally. Really a lifesaver, really a superpower. So that is the number one. So use the grid. So let's see a grid in action. I mean, yeah, show and don't tell. I keep trying to do that over here. Show, don't tell. So here's a flyer that I made sometime last year. Yeah, this was last year's flyer. And here's this flyer done on a grid. Now, there's a bit of a tricky one too, because if you notice those two, the L and the P sections on the right side, that's kind of asymmetric. That's kind of off asymmetric. What's that word? It may come in later, right? Asymmetric from the rest of the bulk of the content of this flyer is here in this white part, and then you have those two. So I had to do the grid twice. So here you got the blue grid. I use this blue grid to kind of decide where the L and P will sit. So if you see that they kind of sit more or less neatly with one of those grid mechanisms. And then I had to apply another grid. Here's a maroon grid, which I use on the white bit so that I can arrange a really complicated bit. A lot of elements over here. I need to keep everything all stiff and nice and then do that. No, I'm not going into the details of how I designed this, but just to illustrate the fact that a grid really makes it useful. And really I kind of started falling in love with grid, call it if you will. I mean, when I was working with this flyer, because I was really struggling to kind of put all these things into one place and do it well. So that's why a grid works. If you're not using a grid, or if you intend to kind of start designing, the first thing you want to start with is the grid. Next, the rule of thirds comes up from the grid. Okay, so this is kind of, in synchronous, or, it comes in the same order. So you got the grid, and in the previous grid, you probably noticed two of the lines were kind of heavier, as I've shown over here. So you got the two heavier lines over here. And this is kind of used to talk about or to illustrate the rule of thirds. Now, I'm a photographer. I've been taking photographs like for the better part of, more than a decade or so, right? And one of the first things you learn in photography is this thing called rule of thirds. It's almost like gospel. I mean, like everybody wants to do rule of thirds. You place everything on the rule of thirds. If you're a photographer, you're already coming in with that. Great technique to use for design too. So the theory or the principle here is that the human eye is naturally drawn to the lines and the intersections of these lines. So where the horizontal and the vertical cross. I mean, it's one of those things. You're naturally drawn to that. So what does the rule of thirds? What does this rule of thirds things do? Nothing. It just divides the canvas into 9 equal bits. That's about it. So you have 2 vertical lines, 2 horizontal lines. Regardless of the size or the orientation of a canvas, you use the same principle. And if you're human, okay, you will tend to be attracted towards those third lines, both on the vertical plane as well as in the horizontal plane. So as a designer, you want to keep your critical elements, your focal elements. What's that word? Focal elements. It'll come by later. Along these lines or on the intersections of these lines. Another great design principles. Look back, you got the grid. Grid helps you to put things across a canvas. Where would you actually put them? Use the rule of thirds, put them across the line of the thirds or on the intersection of the line of thirds. Here we go again. Show, don't tell. Let's see the rule of thirds in action. Here's another poster that I made last year. This is text only, very busy, lots of content, and no, I can't apply hierarchy or something else because it's talking about the club contest schedule. So one of those things that we made. And see how I try to apply the rule of thirds in this. So you've got the 2 horizontal planes, which neatly kind of keeps the ducks in a row as far as those elements are concerned, 6 clubs. You've got the vertical planes, which also kind of divides and tells you where this flyer is coming from. Area 24 in that case no longer exists, but it's what it is. These are all old flyers. But a very simple but a very effective way of keeping your elements organized, especially when you have a lot of elements. This also works when there's not many elements. We'll see a couple of those later, but this is what you would do with rule of thirds. So you got the grid, you got the rule of thirds, helps you to place your elements on your canvas. Let's move on. Next is the focal point. And I don't know, I can't pick which one is the most important. I'm kind of putting it in terms of how I kind of do my own workflow. This is how I work on a design. I look at a grid, rule of thirds. And the third thing I'm looking for, not because it's third important, because is the next step in the workflow, so more or less to speak, is the focal point. Now, do you notice this flyer? What's happening over here? your entire attention is drawn by that one photograph bang in the center, and everything else is revolving or moving around that. So what happens when you see this is your attention is immediately drawn to that figure in the center. There's no ambiguity. There is no second guessing. There's no nothing. There's a person over there. You know the person's name then. You're obviously already wondering, who's this person? You know the person's name, you know what's happening over there. And then first you look at that person, the photograph, that element right at the center, and then you go across consuming, digesting the rest of the information available over there. That central element, the most obvious, intensively apparent element to you on your canvas, is the focal point. And as a designer, you want to strive to get a focal point on each of your flyers, because that's your hook. We're all Toastmasters. We all speak, and you probably have learned this in your speaking. You know, the opening hook in your speech. This is the opening hook applied to flyer design, the focal point. I have a snazzy PowerPoint pyrotechnic over here, which I hope will work. And there, boom. So brings your attention right to the focal point. I'm going to show you another example of a focal point. Now, this is not from the Toastmasters universe, but I really found this very attractive. And this is, I found this from FinShots, it's from LinkedIn, is one of those financial sites. But look at how it works over here again. Your attention is immediately drawn to that photograph in the center. That's the person we're talking about. Okay, so there, boom. You're not going to look at anything else. Next, you're going to kind of ask yourself, who's this person? Boom, the second one is Anand Mahindra. And now you have hierarchy working. That's fun data. But here again, what we look at is the focal point. So the focal point is a powerful element or powerful, not element, composition technique, a principle to use when you design your flyers. Use it liberally. One more example of a focal point, just to illustrate that the focal point does not need to be in the center of your flyer. It's not about being the center. It's just about being the most prominent item. And here again, you see two things. One is, of course, your attention is drawn towards the person over there. So that's the focal point. And the designer here has also used the rules of thirds. You see how he's used the right third of the picture of the flyer to kind of place that element. So that's the rule of thirds, and how do you call it? Reinforcing the focal point. Two things working together to improve the impact of your flyer. Tricks of the trade. This is your Swiss knife in your back pocket. Again, use it. Then you have hierarchy. Now, if you notice, what's happening over here is in the focal point exercise that we saw earlier, you have the grid, you have the focal point. In the focal point, what is happening is you are establishing a hierarchy, which a hierarchy means you want your viewer to view things and to consume or digest or understand things in your flyer in a certain order. So in the previous examples, you had one big focal point. The focal point quickly, immediately, and without any doubt establishes that hierarchy. You know what you need to look at. But what happens when you have a multitude of elements in your flyer, which happens as in the example over here? You've got many elements working over here. You really can't decide which one is really so important that you're going to do a focal point treatment to this one. It could be done, but maybe sometimes you can't. You're faced with this challenge. You need to kind of accord everything a certain relative importance. And that's when hierarchy comes into play. And hierarchy is exactly what it means. So how are you going to structure or order the elements in your page, in your design, so that the viewer is viewing it and consuming it in the order that you desire them to? And this is what I tried to do with this flyer last year. And this was a very difficult flyer. It was an agenda flyer that we wanted to kind of set out for this event. And we had plenty of things running over here. You had the agenda itself, which is there, right there, in the center. You had the 4 panelists, all of them celebrities, world champion speakers, so on and so forth. We had the title of the event. We had the organizers, and below this was a 3-area event. Plenty of stuff happening over here. I kind of tore my head. What am I going to do? Go back to the basics. Go back to your Swiss knife, your composition techniques. So of course you can see the rule of thirds happening over here. You can see some element of the grid over here, but I applied hierarchy. And how do you apply hierarchy? A couple of things are elements that you can play around with to apply hierarchy. For example, you can use size. You may not have a lot of leeway with size, but you can do relative sizing. So you see the panelists are bigger than the than the organizers, for example. So the first thing that really catches you on this flyer are the panelists. They're also kind of up and above, so that brings your eye there. Some kind of focal point working with. Size works over here. Champions Assemble written over there is large. 11th December written over there is large, because those are the things that I want my viewers to see. These are the people coming. This is the event. And then this is the date, usually the things that I kind of look for or try to communicate with my flyer. And then I'm stacking everything in terms of the size and hierarchy. I'm using contrast over here, right? So where do we see contrast over here? Of course, in the titles, so the color contrast between the background and the color of the fonts over there, they are stark. But I'm also using contrast on the other side. So for example, you see the word agenda. Now, that's just a title, and I just kind of, it's a placeholder. Everybody knows it's an agenda. I mean, it's one of those practically redundant things over here, but I want it to be known as an agenda. I don't want to give it too much of emphasis. So I reduce the contrast and I put this kind of an emboss effect, just dump it over there. I don't know if you're seeing that 24, 56, 59 artwork underneath. That's just kind of reinforcing. These are places where I'm reducing contrast. So I'm kind of allowing them to be there without kind of overpowering the key or the core messages. I'm placing stuff, again, agenda over there, the various elements that we're placing over here, the agenda itself right in the middle, the images below, so on and so forth. Placement is again working here to establish that hierarchy. Proportions, as you can see, if you look at the proportions and of the texts that is running over here, I've got text varying from really big fat letters to really micro print letters, and all of that is there. And then, you see that, and don't shy away from really small micro thing, because if it is not important but it is mandatory, I mean, bad for a really small font. Again, I'm getting away from the topic over here. So that's applying hierarchy. So ultimately, what's happening over here is many elements. You need to give or record each of them their importance. Use hierarchy and intelligently to kind of bring this whole thing into focus, into working as a good, useful flyer. What else do we have next? Here's another one: alignment. My favorite of many of these things, because it's one of those things, right? I like to see my ducks lined up in a row. I mean, I think that's an idiom. Yep, it is an idiom, and you always do that. But that's not just a quirk, okay? Alignment is powerful, and let's see why alignment works. Because you see this flyer and what's happening over here. The first thing is everything is in its place, and that's primarily because, of course, there's rule of thirds happening here. There's a focal point happening here. There's all of that. The grid is being applied. All of that's happening very, very well. But to my eye, everything is aligned. Everything in its place. So if you look at, let me try this, another PowerPoint pyrotechnic trick. Boom, boom. Yeah, these are the yellow lines. Okay, so the yellow lines tell you what's being aligned over here. So everything is right in its place. Everything is kind of kept where it needs to be. Makes your viewing experience that much better. Let me see if you can rewind this. Yeah, there you go. So that's the alignment, and that's why everything keeps in its own place. So when you align, usually a couple of things happen. One is, of course, everything is neat, organized. It's easy on your eye. You can pack in a lot of information without kind of disturbing the viewer, which actually happens. And then, which obviously improves the effectiveness of your flyer. Second thing that's happening over here is you're also creating some effects. Okay, and here's where I bring in a little bit of a fancy word, another word, because you see what's happening over here. I don't know if you already saw this. I saw this when I first saw the flyer, which was, I really think Yasser made this from Hill Capital Toastmasters. I don't know if he's here in the crowd today, but if he is, I mean, deserves applause. But here's one more thing that's happening. There's a certain shape that's building over here, right? So there's this thing happening over here, and there's a V shape, and that's a powerful thing. And in technical designer terminology, it's called gestalt, or the suggestion of a shape or a form. And that's how master designers try to communicate maybe a second layer of meaning or message to their work. For me, this V shape tells me or speaks to me that this is a funnel, all right? And this is a Moments of Truth flyer. So the Moments of Truth in one reading, my reading, is a funnel that brings you to a better club experience. Brilliant. So stuff like that. So all of this is happening because of alignment. See a couple of other things too. Then you have symmetry that is happening over here, right? Everything is clean and symmetry in the place. So you have equal stuff happening over here. So that's also kind of working for you, so on and so forth. So alignment, superpower as far as you're designing, again, work with it. I think that's all we have. No, we have a couple of more things over here. So that's done with alignment. And then we have something called negative space or white space. Now, negative space or white space is all the space in your canvas. Now, you see this PowerPoint slide, this whole slide itself, you see more gray and a very little other elements where the elements are equipped. So in this example of a flyer, so you got the gray bits, which is elements. You got the white, which is the actual canvas itself. And composition or the principles of design tells you that you want to be judicious in terms of how you manage this negative space. All right. So it's always better to leave some, if not more, space empty, because that empty space kind of reinforces the content that's there on it. And you would kind of imagine too, if you see something that's packed, chock block packed with content, it's tiring. It kind of causes you fatigue. It kind of, so again, so you lose the impact of your flyer. So you want to kind of control that by using negative space. And negative space, that's all there is to it. I mean, what's the empty space that you leave in your design? It's a visual guideline. I kind of tend to use a number because I work with numbers. So I kind of tend to use a number. I usually leave at least about 35% of the space empty, which kind of works for the kind of work that I do. I never leave more than about 60% empty. That'll kind of look a bit of like an orphan stuff. I don't have examples to show you over here, but that's, you go by look and feel, but don't pack it up. I mean, let the elements, let the flyer breathe. Helps for a better viewing experience. And when you have a better viewing experience, you also have a better response to your flyer. I think I have an example here of an empty space flyer over here. Yeah, that's Emirates. This is a dummy flyer that I made. And I could have used a lot of that real estate, but I chose to kind of keep it on one. A couple of things working here again. So I've got the white space. White space is not literally white. It's space that doesn't have anything. So that's, I mean, blame the jargon for that. So I've got empty space and I've got a focal point, which is that frame in the center. I'm using another technique over here called framing, not to be covered over here, so on and so forth. Many things happening over here. But again, the point over here is you use empty space or the blank space in your canvas to your advantage to reinforce your basic focal point and the message of your flyer. And I think that's there we are. Yeah, that's it. So there we are, 6 composition techniques, principles, if you would. Let's quickly summarize them. So we saw 6 of these. We saw the grid, we saw the rule of thirds, we saw the focal point, we saw hierarchy, we saw alignment, and we saw negative space. And once again, let me kind of underscore this and kind of repeat what I said earlier. So these are not the only techniques that you have. In fact, there's plenty more. And the more you go, the more advanced you get. You probably use a lot of them. You don't need to use all of these, but I find that applying most, if not all of these 6 composition principles, makes for better flyers in my experience. And I suppose, I believe, I trust you would too. So give it a shot, give it a try. So that's basically what we have for understanding design and composition. What do we have next? Oh yeah, this triad on the triad. Just this is something I thought about on the fly. So let's make it really quick. So what I really wanted to do, and I keep it really simple, is we made this flyer. Okay. In fact, I kind of made these flyer. I applied many of the design principles over it. So we made this flyer for this event. So I wanted to illustrate if all these principles, the elements, principles, composition techniques, etc., are applicable, have been applied, or are they evident in this flyer itself. So one way to kind of look at or judge the effectiveness or the utility, not even the effectiveness, the utility of the composition techniques that we just looked at. So we'll also probably kind of look at the 3 different elements, right? So let's try and do this. Again, PowerPoint pyrotechnics to our rescue. Let's see if this works. Does work. So elements. So do we see lines, shapes, colors, textures, typography, and images? Yes, we do, of course, right? So there are lines over there. Is my laser pointer working? Let's see if I can get that working. Oh, this could be dangerous. Okay, I'm just going to kind of let go of that laser pointer because I don't want my presentation to suffer. Okay, so you've got lines working over there. So you've got two lines. I don't know if it's evident to you, which kind of separate this flyer into 3 zones. We got shapes, of course. We got the 3 portraits over there. They're obviously shapes, etc. But on the point of line and shapes, there's another thing that we want to recognize is it's not always or only the literal lines, the literal shapes. Okay, so the line also refers to how your eye goes. So, for example, there's a vertical line going over. So when you're reading this flyer, your eye is moving in this line, and then it moves in this line, the so-called vertical line. So those are lines that works in this flyer. Shapes, yeah. So you got the triad block on top. You got the middle block with the details of the program and the panelists, and then finally you have a third block with the date and the details of the meeting. So those are blocks, those are shapes, not just the literal shapes, but your eye is already kind of making this. Remember, just talk that similar things that are happening here when you look at this. So scores on that point. Great. Color, yes, color is here, very compliant too. I would imagine Patricia will confirm and reconfirm. Not the point. Okay. And then we got texture. I was about to say non-dull, but then again, this is a serious meeting. Okay. And then we got texture, and then texture is many things. We don't usually, and I don't kind of usually do this. There is texture in this flyer, but you could kind of you could kind of take the gradient. You see that darker maroon and the lighter maroon is a form of texture. Because I'm not going into the definitions. That's there too. Typography, of course, fonts in all their glory. I mean, you got big fonts, small fonts. You got all of them compliant. I've used just 2 fonts, 2 font families over here, Montserrat and Source Sans Pro, but I've used every weight, and I like that, and kind of really gives me. And you got images, so on and so forth. So checks, all checks, excellent. So one pillar of our design triad done. Let's go to the next, composition. Great. And in composition, we talked about the grid. Do we see the grid? Let's find out. Oh yeah, the grid is there, and the grid works. It's been applied over here. So again, just to illustrate, I kind of organized these things on that grid. So you've got 3 zones over here. There's a line going vertical, kind of feed into each other. So that's happening over here. Rule of thirds happening too. So many of the critical elements in this flyer are lying across the across the thirds. So that's kind of obviously drawing you down back over there. And that, I mean, now that the grid is there, and if I remove the grid, you now see that all of the things are working. So just to kind of show how that works. Focal point, you got triad, that's 1. You've got the panelists, that's 2, because that's the key message of this entire flyer. You've got hierarchy working, yep, in spades over here. You've got triad in a certain size, brand masterclass, and you've got the 3 details over there, the titles and the names of the panelists. You see the date and time, presents this in a different weight, so on and so forth. So I'm doing hierarchy over here because there is stuff that is important. I want it to be upfront to you. There is stuff that's just sitting there kind of supporting everything else. So that's kind of working more or less the way I need it to. Space, there's empty space, there's white space, there's use of space. And I'd like to think that there's a kind of balance in this whole flyer. So you got a balance that works on the vertical as well as on the horizontal. So that all of that works. So composition techniques, I actually use this. I'm illustrating this. So this is like me doing stuff and scoring myself, best job in the world, but hey, it works. So I hope you like it too. And I think I had something else. So yeah, so composition works. And I wanted to use this to kind of look at many other elements of the principles of design, but I think we more or less got it covered. Yeah, we got alignment. Alignment is definitely evident over here across the vertical as well as the horizontal planes. Balance, contrasts, emphasis happening there, so on and so forth. So ultimately then what we see is, yeah, the triad works on the triad. And that's the point that I was making. So use a triad to get a triad worthy flyer. So that's about it. And that's about the class. I'm going to kind of end with a couple of points, and not just one point actually. So since we're designing Toastmaster meeting flyers, you want to be cognizant, you want to be a bit aware that, and I just kind of put it as a postscript. Mandatory meeting flyer items always include, I think, club name, club address and location, and some details of the coordinates of the club, meeting theme, and Toastmaster of the day. It may not be universally applicable. I know that there are clubs that don't use themes, but if you're doing that, perhaps the most important, obviously, you want to have the club name, you want to have the logo. I missed Toastmasters logo over here. Bad. So, but then you need to have the Toastmasters logo, then date, time, location, and city and time zone. There's been it's been a recurring request when we talk in public. And then always make sure that you have an RSVP so people can get back to you when they want to. And that brings me to the end of my section, and I'll leave you with a quote. Learn the rules. Learn the rules like a pro, and then break them like an artist. I wish you all the best. Use TRIIAD to build the best of your flyers. Thank you very much. Back to you, Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you so much for decoding such a complex topic for every one of us. So I believe that most of the audience, those who are present, would have understood how to design. Now, with that, we are going to move on to the next session, which is, so our next trainer, he's a VP Public Relations for Gardens Toastmasters. He's part of the club growth team for the district 1 to 7. He has been a Toastmaster since 2015 and has donned multiple hats. And he's won multiple poster awards, multiple poster of the month awards, and he was the PR ambassador for the district 105 in 2019 and 20. Professionally, our trainer is a Industry 4.0 accessor, and he is a consultant. So this session is going to merge what we learned about branding, the brand manual, and what we learned about design. And we're going to bring it all together. We are going to learn by doing it, by practicing it. And this is the session you can, with Canva, with our Toastmaster of the day, or our trainer, Toastmaster Anup Chandran. Over to you, Toastmaster Anup. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Warm good evening to each and every one of you. It's a pleasure to be the last speaker because we have had two stalwarts giving us words of advice, especially on the branding guidelines. Thank you, Patricia, and DTM Rajesh. Thank you for that wonderful design principles, the TRIIAD. These are some important nuggets to consider when you are designing a poster. Now, before we delve onto the practical part of designing a poster on Canva, I would like to focus our attention because the whole reason of this particular program or the PR initiative is to ensure that we as VPPRs of Toastmasters clubs get it right? We've seen so many non-compliance posters. We've seen most often people trip on very difficult topics, especially themed topics. So without much ado, let me get into the presentation. Right. So before we go, let me put the slide out there. How many of you are irritated with this? These are standard brands that we come to know. We all have interacted with them, but there's something visually wrong. And of course, when we look at our Toastmasters pictures, yes, there's a whole lot of non-compliant posters. I don't want to pick any particular club or anything, but I just had to pick some things which are there in the WhatsApp groups, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. Does it resonate? Leadership, dedication, and empowerment. Do they tick all the boxes in our voice and tone checklist of the Toastmasters brand? I don't think so. Consider them much more coherent. The colors are consistent. There are some design elements, much more pleasing to the eye. And the message is positive in most of these posters. But I said difficult themes. It's easy to have themes which are like moments of truth, joint meetings. These are pretty much easy. But where people go wrong is the difficult themes and be within the brand guidelines. So let's take a look at some of the examples out there and how they can be improved upon. First, the convergence. And this is an open house. It is also a joint meeting between multiple clubs. But when you look at this particular flyer, there's a lot of colors. There's a lot of incongruent elements in this particular picture. Use of clip art, non-compliant fonts, and so on. Here's another example where they have got it right. It's very minimalistic, but gives you the idea it's a joint meeting between two clubs and the basic elements are covered. Here's another example of Diwali. It's very difficult to come up with a Diwali themed poster for a Toastmasters club. But even within the brand guidelines, even within the limitations of the palette, the color, the fonts, and so on, we can create interesting posters. See the bridge between the visual and the connect to Toastmasters. A copy is very, very important. Join us in illuminating your Toastmasters journey this festive season. So here, the design is aligned. It is having the focal right at the middle. It's got the theme and, of course, the connect and a positivity about the Toastmasters journey. It's another alternative with the gradient. Yet another topic which most people trip on is sports. Use of clip arts. It's definitely not on. We should try to avoid that. Here's another alternative where you can use elements of sports within the poster. Here, what I've tried to do is you have a Toastmasters meeting and a visual picture of a person. Now here, if you have your own visual elements, photographs, or a Toastmaster in action, that would even enhance this message and make it very compliant. Again, the key here is sports brings people together from diverse backgrounds. So does Toastmasters. That's the bridge between a difficult theme and Toastmasters. Similarly, Onam. We just had a flurry of Onam posters in all our WhatsApp groups and Facebook, but these are some of them which usually trip most of the VPPRs. They have the Mahabalis and the cartoon pictures of him, or it could be the boat, and all those kind of visual elements come to our mind. But then when it comes to Toastmasters, we need to be really careful of how we represent them. This is a better way to represent Onam. Very simple, minimalistic, but then the bridge is always in the copy. Experience the Toastmasters Feast of Learning this Onam season. Join us to savor the flavors of growth, communication, and leadership. Much better, positive, and it connects to the audience. Here's another one, Retro Bollywood. They've tried to do some bit of compliance here by using a Toastmasters picture, but then everything surrounding it is a big no-no. They've used cartoon kind of images and so on. And they've also used some of the posters of some of the popular Hindi movies. These are copyright material. So we should be very, very careful about what images we use in our posters. A better way to represent this particular theme would be something like this. Of course, the image can be improved, or maybe that same image can be applied here. But then again, the text, the context, and the headline here drives home the value, or what is Retro Bollywood all about? What do you want to convey? And if as VPPRs, always ask your TMOD, what do they want to convey in this particular theme? So that will be your cue to write the right kind of copy. Similarly, moment of truth, almost compliant, but I think this particular picture, it's not right to use, although it's a photograph. But what they could have done is remove the background, the orange background, and replaced it with a compliant Toastmaster color. Or you don't even have to have any visual with a person. It could be something like this. So these are some examples. For example, biryani. I mean, we should avoid putting pictures of just biryani. But if you can use it with a context, a person eating it, or with a Toastmaster meeting, like the earlier example where Toastmaster Rajesh had shown, I think from TGIS or one of those club meetings. So that is okay, but not just the picture of a biryani or a food item. Here's another one, which I saw a comment in a Reddit forum where they were venting that what if my VPPR has come up with a theme called rockets? Yes, we can construct an interesting, creative poster. And again, the copy drives home the message here. Much like rocket's journey through the cosmos, Toastmasters meeting propel you to new heights in communication and leadership. And again, it's a picture from one of the district events that I've taken here in this particular poster. Sometimes you don't really need to have too much or no visual elements. Just simple elements will work. No need of any pictures, fancy pictures. It's about giving a message. So this is a theme where the focus was on vocal modulation, right? So this is a quick dive into some of the posters where people can go wrong. We can easily get distracted with the theme or the usual festival flavor that we are all used to. So we can try to avoid the pitfalls. Always think about the tone and voice checklist on the brand manual. If you can look at that and if you can see if the design elements are in place, if your alignments are right, you can get most of the pictures, most of the posters right. So this is something which I wanted to just quickly share with you so that we have compliance in all our Toastmaster posters, right? So now let's go to the Canva to do a live demo of the poster creation. So all of you are familiar with Canva? Raise the hands. I see some of you, okay. So I won't delve too much into the details of Canva, but Canva is a great tool to easily learn and master. So if at all you are new to this, all you have to do is log in. Once you're logged in, typically a poster for a club meeting, it would be either a landscape or a portrait. Or if you want to focus only on Instagram, then it's a square format. So Canva has got all kinds of social media canvases, templates built into it. So all you have to say, let's say, for example, portrait, A4. There you go. So you just have to type in, and then you will get a bunch of templates. But I would stay away from template and use a blank. Right. For example, we were earlier talking about grids and having those elements show up in your Canva. I have already switched on in my environment. For example, in Canva, you can go to File, View Settings. You can turn on these Show Rulers and Guides and Show Margin, right? For example, if you turn on this. Add guides. If you want to have a 3x3 guide, you can add a guide. So now you have your canvas. Now every canvas, you can change the color of the background. So again, you have the color swatch here. You can get into the brand kit. If you have a paid version of the Canva, you can add all the color Toastmaster palettes, palette colors, and all the fonts can also be loaded into the brand kit. But if you have a not paid version, you still have to use the hex code in your brand guide and get the colors to change the color of the canvas. So since I've already loaded in the palette, I will choose the maroon color. Now, this particular color, I want to use a gradient. Now, how do you use gradient in Canva? It's very simple. You click on solid color, gradient, and you get the two colors, right? So for example, the colors for maroon in Toastmasters manual is the first color is 781,327. Enter. The second color (380,104). Right. So we got the two colors. Now, of course, we've got the gradient. Again, there are different styles. This is a linear gradient, 90°. You have 180° and so on. So I will go with this. The next one is to add the Toastmasters logo. You can upload from the resources on the district website or on the Toastmasters website. And I've already uploaded it into my environment. So he can go to upload. You can even search. Or I can go to the brand. There are two ways to do it. So you can either use word search or you can use logos if you have a paid version. So I've loaded all the colors. Let me go with this particular version, right? As DTM Rajesh had said, we're going to use the grid to nicely align the Toastmasters logo. I've aligned to the edges of the margin. The next thing, what every poster would have is the title or the club name. So I'm going to align here and I'm going to say align left. So it's nicely aligns to the margin there. And here I've used Gotham, which is one of the Toastmasters approved fonts. ABC Toastmasters, right? I'll give it a weight of 32. Okay. You can pinch it. I think my mouse is stuck.
sorry for that interruption. So the trainer is just going to be back. He had some issue with his laptop. He's just going to restart and join back in a bit.
Toastmaster Prasanna, can we go for FAQ if you have some questions ready? We have our panelist, Toastmaster Patricia, and we have
Yeah,
medium
fine.
Rajesh as well.
So while Toastmaster Anup is going to reboot, there were a couple of questions which came across during DTM Rajesh's session. So I'll just put it across. So the first question came up from Hemant Gaur. He was asking, he would like to learn about the golden numbers 1.618 in a flyer design. So DTM Rajesh, would you want to go ahead and answer that question about the golden numbers?
And
You're
I'm mute bug again, unmuted. Right. Hey, yeah, I saw Hemant's question and fantastic. I mean, I didn't put down golden ratio over here because again, very purely personal opinion. I kind of view that as slightly more advanced, or it's a difficult one to use, but it's one of the most really famous and popular ways of laying out and also managing your elements in graphic design itself. Okay, so the golden ratio is, I don't know if I can share something over here. I just made something over here, but that's fine. Two ways in which you can use the golden ratio. One is, let me share. I think it'll be better if I share. It's easier to kind of do it that way. Which much thanks to Anup's computer, of course. All right, so I just made this up. Can you see this? Hemant, if you're there, this is one for yours. And I think we already know this. I just kind of cooked it up right now. I use the golden ratio very often. I don't use it in, so the left side is the numbers, the right side is the visual layout, representation, etc. So the golden ratio, the theory or the mathematics behind it is this. So if you have two lengths, A and B, length A, centimeters, meters, length B, centimeters and meters. If the golden ratio applies to these two lengths, then that formula works, which means the ratio of A to B is the same as the ratio of A plus B to A. It's one of those things. So let's not get into the mathematics theorem itself. But for a golden ratio to work, this formula will hold true. And that's that magic number, that 1.618, okay? I use this 1.618 all the time. But and so that's I'll come to how we do that. I haven't had time to prepare the whole thing, but here's the gist of it. Now, if you took that 1.618 and you see the right side, so you got a big square on the right? So let's say the square is of a certain dimension. And then if you apply that ratio and keep constructing smaller squares with that ratio 1.618 and organize it, these squares will form a certain pattern. And if you draw an arc connecting the opposite corners of the square, you find an arc. That's the golden arc, the golden ratio. And it is said that this laying elements on your layout on the spiral is also a very catchy thing. So legend has it that Mona Lisa is kind of I also read up something over there. You can always use it. But I find it difficult to find something quickly, especially in the Toastmasters context or the Toastmasters meeting flyer context, that you kind of easily fit or easily do this. Do it if you can, if you have the imagination and the time and the resources, do it as you will. I wish I had some better content to illustrate how this would kind of look on top of it. That's as far as the layout is on the right side is as far as you would lay out the image. How I usually use golden ratio myself is I use that ratio when I'm doing hierarchy. So you remember we spoke about hierarchy. Oh, mute up, please. So I use this all the time in hierarchy. So when I'm deciding the relative sizes between two elements, I apply this ratio. So if I have a font size of 20 for a certain element on a certain flyer, I think I've applied it in that hierarchy flyer. Then if I wanted to have something that was a little of a next step, I would divide it by 1.618 or multiply it by 1.68, as the case may be, to kind of get to the next size of what I want to do. And I noticed that actually kind of brings a certain progression or a certain hierarchy automatically to your design work. This is kind of a quick fix kind of an explanation. I don't know if this kind of satisfies Hemant. If you're still there, please ask questions. I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, it is perfect. Like architects in Greek time, they started using, and the
Right.
origin, it comes from India only, like Fibonacci series, which we call 1, 1, 2, then 2 plus 1, 3. Our human body is also in this proportion.
Right.
So yes, perfect answer. Like the font hierarchy, we can put to the 1.618.
That's right. Font hierarchies, sizes of elements, big circle, small circle. I usually don't do it, but you can even design the canvas to that to that size. But I usually keep to the your standard sizes that you have over here. Many ways. It's ultimately a number. Apply the number wherever you want to. Have fun. Thanks, Hemant. Superb question. I think the same question came from a couple of sources. I hope this answers. Any more questions? Please ask.
We'll go back to Toastmaster
Thank you so
Anup's
much.
session, and we'll
Apologies.
get back to the questions following.
Apologies, guys. I mean, sometimes technology fails you. My laptop decided to reboot. Okay, so ABC Toastmasters, yes. So that's the headline. What I also want to do is show you a couple of tricks, right? A quick trick is if you want to add a rectangle, there are some hotkeys. Just type the letter R, you will get a rectangle on your canvas. Similarly, if you want to get a line, in this case, I want to get a line. I just type L and it allows you to add the line. Okay, so here, what is it I want to do? I want to use this as my footer, and I want to get some essentials going here. I want to get the text area, and I want to use a subheading, and again, it's a Gotham font, and I'll say my meeting place is 10th floor. Tower. By Media City, right? So that's my address. So let's put it out there at the bottom, right? Next comes in a Toastmasters meeting. What else is essential? Let's use this. Maybe center it. You can see the pink guide there, guideline that shows that it is full length. It's centered. Okay, so that's there. The next one is I would like to get the timing right. Okay, date and time. Simple. Meeting is on 20th, 20 October. But I want this to be given a little importance. So I'm going to place it here. Again, I would say left align, but I will use something called Gotham black. Right? Okay. And I want to give this yellow color. So text color. And these are the brand kit colors. I will give it a yellow because there is a contrast. And you can use some effects on this so that there is a bit of an embossed kind of a look. So you can use the lift. Okay. The next one is the timing, right? So this I would say 9 or 7 to 9 p.m. Okay. Here's what I do. Usually I like to align them and give them at same level. So I just slightly pull them so that it aligns with the T. But I would like to give a different color. So I choose white here. Now, there are a couple of interesting things. People say, okay, what is your time zone? And yeah, so that's the additional information I want to give, right? But that's not very important. So I'm not going to use the black. I'll use the normal Gotham. I'll say GMT +4. I'll stylize it and I will align it on top of this. You can use the mouse to align it on top. So that's a bit imbalanced, but I want some data on this side, right? So let's look for what other information do we have to say. RSVP and whom to contact. Okay, that's another information. Say RSVP. Okay, and here what I will do is I don't want center align. I will align it to this particular margin, right? So I'll say RSVP and then who's the person. You see, I don't have enough space here. So let me align this to, yeah, it's aligned to 20th October on the left side. Now this, I will decrease the font size to about 20 and the color to yellow. And it's going to be, let's say, Toastmaster Prasanna, right? He's going to be contacted. And let me give out the number to contact. And I would want to use a different color, white. Right. Now I would like to reduce this a bit so it aligns to this number. Yeah. So what you can do is you've got the header and the footer done. Now we don't have to touch this anymore. So what you can do in Canva is you can group them by selecting all, by dragging the mouse and selecting all the elements. And it says group, right? You can see it here. What you can also do is in the more dots, you can also say lock. That means I cannot move this anymore. It's locked in that position. Similarly, this is a footer. Group them and lock it. Now you have your basic template. It's looking nice, balanced, and your key elements are there of a meeting, right? Now we talked about the canvas, the space and the main focal area and so on. So let's give it a little more definition. So what we can do is we can use shape again. I would like to write this. This is a block. Change the color to blue. Now there's a concept of layering in most of the design tools. In Canva 2, you have something called position, and you can say send to back, right? Now you put that as a header, and again, it's a definition there. I would say Control-C, Control-V. You can copy the same thing. Again, position it to back. There you go. You now have a canvas to play with for your theme and for your meeting content. What do you want to say? Let's say a very difficult topic is Halloween. So I want to create a poster for a club meeting themed Halloween. First and foremost, I would like to have some visual element. So if you can go to in Canva, there is something called elements, and you can click on elements and you can say frame, right? if you select frame, you see a whole lot of choice here, right? You can explore, but I would like to use the slanted frame, right? Let's bring it out there. Okay. Maybe this can go a little. Right. Now, what are the elements? Easy thing is to use some of the Toastmaster compliant pictures. So I have uploaded tons of pictures which are available from the Toastmasters website. But if you have your own club pictures, that will also work. So in this case, I would like to use it's a club meeting, right? So want to show a bit of club members meeting and having a social because it's a Halloween theme. So let's use some visual element is done. Then now let's get the text done. Okay, header. Now in header, again, the focal area I would like to align with in this quadrant, right? So I can put it here. But the contrast is not there, so I would like to use white here again, and again go for Gotham black, and I can increase the size, okay, and use some effects, increase the intensity, and this is too big, so let's reduce it a bit, and you can even stretch it. Right. So we're clear that this is a Halloween, but what is the bridge? That's the key here. How do we bridge a Halloween to Toastmasters? This is where I would say, let's go back to the presentation. I hope all of you can see this. Prasanna, can you give me a verbal cue? Okay. So this is what I do. I mean, I use certain keywords, trick or treat. When it comes to Halloween, these are some of the words that come to mind. Hocus pocus, there's a little witch in all of us, get into the spirit, loot bag. So all these kind of words or phrases, that is what you need to start thinking about, and then start thinking about how to bridge with positivity, value, quirkiness into the Toastmasters world. This is what I do typically, and it works. For example, one of the copy could be trick or treat your way to confident speaking at Toastmasters. Trick or speak, it's a twist, right? Because that's what we do in Toastmasters. Join us this Halloween to fill up your loot bag with confidence and public speaking goodies. Or it could be trick or speak. Don't be scared to improve your skills this Halloween. What stage fright? Speak fearlessly even when you're dressed up as monsters in our spectacular Halloween themed meeting. Any of these can be used, right? So let's try to use one of them. Okay. Go back. You can paste it. Now I would use left align. I will use, instead of Gotham, I would like to use the body. And I will go for a regular or maybe semi-bold and change the color to yellow so it's readable. Now again, we will use the alignment using the grids. Again, left align. So your body and your main headline, this goes beyond the grid. I would like to limit the scan to from left to right. So there you go. This is the first poster. Let's have a look at it. Now people may say this doesn't look very Halloweenish. Okay. Can we use some other interesting visual? Yes, we can try that. Let's make a duplicate. So I've got a duplicate of the earlier one. Now let's look for some interesting pictures. Again, in Canva, we have something called photos, where you have tons of visual elements, pictures that we can use. But I would like to search for something related to Halloween, trick or treat. Okay. We can't use any of this. Every time we go here, we need to really think, is this going to be Toastmasters compliant? Does it break any rule in the brand book? So this is the key thing that we want to keep in mind. But what is said in the brand book is we cannot use children landscape solely in the picture. But if there are any adults or any family pictures, that's okay. So I would like to have, and the expression of the person, right? So earlier I had done some search. I think one of the elements here I would like to pick is this a kid who is actually doing the trick or treat. And it's always about communication, right? When you knock on the door, you need to say something or you need to have that conversation. So this is why I think I picked this particular image where it depicts a child and an adult having a conversation, right? So this is something which you can use. We're not breaking any boundaries or any guidelines here. So this is something which we can do, which is allowed, right? This is one aspect of it. Another element could be maybe I don't want to use this. I want to use two images. So let's do that. I want to use a different kind of element here. So maybe funky looking because it's Halloween. Right. I'm going to use something which I have uploaded from one of the district events and pick an element which is a colorful picture because Halloween is all about color. This is where you can add a little more color into your poster where people are wearing bright clothes. Okay, maybe I can use this particular imagery, right? It could be from your club meeting, right? This picture could be from your club meeting, but I'm just using what I have. And I could also use an additional picture. Maybe I want to use this. And here's a trick that you can do. This edit photos, and you can remove a lot of clutter from the picture. Something called background remover. If you don't have a paid version of Canva, you can use external tools like bgremover.com. I think there's a website which you can use to remove backgrounds, or some other tools like Photoshop and so on, right? Maybe I can use this picture just to bridge the Halloween and again, we can even change the text. It could be trick or talk. like to use this. So there we go. We have 4 different posters, all compliant. Is there anything else that you would like to see? Most welcome. I would open up the floor for questions.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anup, for that wonderful session and taking us through and tying it all together. So 2 sessions, we had a session on branding, we had a session on design, and beautifully tied up with your session where everything what is learned in theory was put into practice. So with that, we have the triad, the trio trainers who had this session for all of us. And now we'll open the floor for questions. We had a couple of questions which had come during the sessions, and I'll just start up with the one we have already answered. And there was another question from Meghna. She wanted to know about, I would like to know about the Gordon theory. Now, that's something which like Toastmaster Rajesh.
I think Toastmaster Rajesh, it was in his session.
Yeah. About the Gordon theory.
I don't know if it was Gordon theory or if Meghna was referring to the golden ratio. So
Golden ratio, I think, probably.
it's probably golden ratio. I don't know if Meghna is still here. If she's here, she can clarify. I haven't heard anything called Gordon, but golden, definitely we spoke about golden.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Okay. So we will clarify and then get back to that question. The next one is coming from Toastmaster Pooja. She wanted to know that are these presentations available for downloading after the session? So this is a question open for all 3 of you. So are these presentations available for downloading after the session? So
yeah,
who's going to take it up?
I'm okay to share.
Yeah, absolutely. No issues.
Yeah, fine. So yeah, Toastmaster Pooja, if you're still there, yes, we'll share these presentations. So if you're already registered, we'll drop it across by email, and so you can receive them. Then the next question is again.
I am online, and just 1 minute.
Yeah.
Let me just on my video.
Yeah.
So, do I need to send my email ID or maybe connect with each of the speakers individually? Because
No, not needed. Not needed.
Quite insightful, and I would definitely want to learn more, based on the references from the presentations.
Great. So we had shared the like if you can drop your email address or on the same registration link, if you can just drop your email address, we'll send it across on the same email which is there in the registration, and that's going to be easier for us to reach out to everyone.
Right. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you.
And the next one is again from Toastmaster Hemant. He was pointing out about the presentation where there were 2 segments, good versus not so good, and what is versus what could be. So that's something which is referring to what was being shared by Toastmaster Anup. So he's just commenting.
Is there any question? Anything specific?
Anything specific you want to ask about that, Toastmaster Hemant?
No, just I was I found like 2 different colors were used. So it was inspiring.
Yes, thank you.
Because there is a speaker, she discovered how memorable speeches they craft. And she said what is and what could be. It is one of structure, and same thing you presented.
Right.
Okay. And there's another question from Toastmaster Rosemary. She was asking about where were you reading that information about Halloween? You just had a couple of lines about Halloween, and she was just wondering where are you reading it from? So if you could answer.
So this is what I do typically. I mean, when I get a particular difficult topic, just do Google search, look at famous quotes around that area. And then you start using wordplay. How can I bridge that particular phrase that you like, something which is catchy? It's like any speech, right? You have a hook. So you have the hook. How can I then use the hook to tie to Toastmasters? So that's what you need to practice. Yeah.
Okay. And so some were mentioning that after registering they didn't receive. Anyone who we'll send across the videos. We'll post it on YouTube. You can reach it out on the Toastmasters District 127's YouTube channel. We'll put it up once we have recorded and we have uploaded it. We'll let you know that it is already uploaded, so you can check it up there. Anyone who wants to go back to each of the session in their own sweet time, we will put it up on the YouTube channel. I think that
I think there was one question, Prasanna. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is about, I think, when I got disconnected because of a technical issue, I was shown how to use the grid lines in Canva.
Right.
It's quite simple. I can quickly demonstrate it. So for example, in Canva, you can go here, File. Are you able to see the screen? File, View Settings, Show Rulers and Guides. Yeah, you select this. Clear guides, you can remove the guide.
Yeah, this question had come up from Toastmaster Devesh. So if you're still there, this is the way to reach it out. And there's another question from Toastmaster Francois Bowen. So the question is that my question is for the theme meetings and clubs. If the meeting concept is not found in Canva templates or photos, can we use a photo from anywhere? I think it is going to be for Toastmaster Anup.
Absolutely. As long as it follows the brand guidelines in terms of not using children only, landscape only, all those things. If you can create a visual trying to avoid all these elements, then it's fine. You can use from any source, and of course you need to have the copyright, or at least source it from places where they allow you to do so, like Creative Commons license and so on. So if you can try to use those kind of websites like pexels.com or unsplash.com, these are a couple of sites which allow you to use third-party content which is free to use.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Toastmaster Francois? Okay, thank you so much. So with that, we have come to the end of the session, and now I would like to call upon Toastmaster Roji for the word of thanks. Toastmaster Roji, over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Prasanna, the MC of the show. Good evening, District 127, and to all those who have joined us to make this event and the evening such a special moment for District 127. Thank you from my heart. And when it comes to District 127, learning is pivotal to growth. And who's behind this? None other than our lady superstar, the bold and beautiful District Director, DTM Deepa Surendran and her team. And also, I need to mention the relentless hard work from the PR team. Now, if you looked at the agenda and the event that happened today, it was opened by the Superman of District 127, our Assistant Public Relations Manager, Toastmaster VG John. He's the bright star of this District 127. He opened with such zeal and passed the baton to our charming, disciplined, organized MC Toastmaster Prasanna. And he, like an efficient pilot, took the flight right on time, ensured that the journey was smooth, and also when there were risks, the gutters and the air gutters that came in, he managed the glitches so well, putting in the right questions, opening the floor, and all such things. Thank you, Toastmaster Prasanna. With your meticulous effort, this event would not have been such a huge success. Now, the TRIIADs, the master trainers. What do I say about these master trainers? Am I the person to say about these people? Well, Toastmaster Patricia Gaekwad, She stole the show like a boss. Yes, she properly emphasized on the proper way to branding. And when it comes to the best person in the town, in the district, and in the region, who else can decode the design other than DTM Rajesh Menon? Now, the one statement that remains with me, and also I can guarantee that remains with the audience would be, design is not a decoration, but a silent ambassador which conveys the right message and statement of the story you would like to unravel to the audience. So that speaks everything about what he just mentioned, what he explained throughout the session. And coming to our cool, all is possible with Canva person, Toastmaster Anup Chandran. He illuminated the show with the do's, the don'ts, and how to do about all the things that is possible through Canva. Thank you, Toastmaster Anup Chandran, the cool way you unraveled the secrets of Canva. Now, the trainer, the angel of the show, Toastmaster Arya Chitra. She, that a diligent timer who worked behind the scenes meticulously. Hats off to your patience and tolerance to take this event forward. And special mention for all those magical, impactful posters that flew across the WhatsApp group, all the social medias, the crossing region, the international sites. Thank you, Toastmaster Prasanna and GTM Rajesh Menon, for the wonderful designs. And the audience, the heart and soul of our district, and all those who have joined us. Without y'all, what a show can the district put up with? Keep the journey forward. Let us be together in this journey of learning. Thank you, and we really appreciate your time and your togetherness in making this district rise to the top. So once again, a heartfelt thanks to the entire team, to the district, and to the globe. Over to you, Toastmaster Prasanna.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So Toastmaster, how are we? Is there something you want to ask? Okay. I'm not sure if it's a raised hand or is there a question you want to?
It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. So with that, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us from different parts. Pardon?
District director is there. Can we call it?
Yeah.
Please close the meeting.
Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, District Director, for this opportunity. District PR team for all the effort which went behind this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, especially to Toastmaster Anup, DTM Rajesh, and Patricia. Thank you. I think we all learned a lot. I don't know about the audience, but